Okay, so today's tomato review is going to be on the Everglades tomato. Alright, so let's take a look at the Everglades tomato and get a closer look at what we got going on here. And so what I do when I harvest my Everglades tomatoes, and I recommend this to anybody who's growing this tomato and you want to harvest. I've been growing these for a number of years, and when I want to do a big harvest, the best way to harvest it is get yourself a 5-gallon bucket and get yourself a good pair of scissors that you use for gardening, and just cut the whole bract off. Now, you're going to have tomatoes on there that ain't fully ripened, so you'd put them aside somewhere where the fruit flies ain't going to get to them, and just pick all the ripe ones off and let all the other ones just ripen up. They ripen up relatively pretty quickly once you cut them off the vine. These will be ripe in about 3 days or so, 4 days maybe. Those will ripen right up. So that's what I do. I generally take these off the bract. The other thing I wanted to show you is this is a common bract from the tomato plant. This is about what you would expect to see off of the Everglades tomato. They put these multi-bract stems out, and they don't line up perfectly together. They kind of stagger, as you can see how those stagger like that, and they don't get too much longer than this, but sometimes these can get a little bigger than this, and you'll probably get, let's say, what do we got here? We got 1, we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You can see these as much as like 12, maybe 14 on the bract. I've seen these pretty long already. So, but this is a good sized one. This is generally what you would expect to see off of each bract. So, again, my recommendation to you is if you're going to harvest these tomatoes, you're going to want to get a 5-gallon pail, and you're going to want to just cut the whole bract off just the way it is and put them in the pail. Now, the other way to harvest them is obviously to pick them off and put them in the pail that way. The problem with doing that is that when you pick these tomatoes off of here, I guess it's just the way the tomato is, but see if I can do it with this one. So, like, this is on a bract, right? And we want to pick the tomato off. You see how part of the skin stays on there like that? See that, how the skin stays on? And so when you're picking a lot of these tomatoes and you're picking them and filling them in your pail, you're going to get lots of them that are going to peel like this. Okay, and when that happens and you're filling up your pail, once your pail is about halfway full, those get really, really soft, and everything starts to mush in there. It starts becoming really messy. Trust me on that. So if you're not looking to make tomato sauce out of them, at least that day, I recommend you leave them on the bract so they don't peel, or they stay intact, and they're pretty strong. If you get a couple of them that are split, I think I got 1 or 2 here, they split from the rain. That's another problem with these tomatoes, is when it rains out, and it rains a lot, these tomatoes will be all sitting on that bract like that, nice, you're ready to harvest. If you didn't get to them that day and it rains overnight, next day a lot of them are going to be split right open. They split and they actually burst their seeds out of them. So just keep that in mind. I got a split one here somewhere. I thought I did. Not sure what I did with it, but they split open. A lot of the ones that were split there I didn't bother bringing in, because as soon as they split, all you got to do is touch it and all the innards come out. It just makes a huge mess when you're not ready for that. You know, if you were making sauce and you were just popping them in there, well, you don't care. But when you're just harvesting them to bring them in, and you got to go through the tomatoes and the whole bottom seeds all over the place. And this is another reason why these spread all over the place, is because those seeds in there, they pop open real easy, and those seeds get on everywhere. So, you know, like if I'm doing them in my driveway and I just throw all of the excess stuff off to the end of my driveway where the grass is, there'll be tomato plants coming up there next year like crazy. So these things are very, very seedy, and you just want to try to kind of control it, unless you don't really care and you want tomato plants growing all over your yard. Well, then that's fine. This is the perfect plant for that type of thing. But let me show you the inside of one of these. I cut one open. And I can't see if you're clear or you're fuzzy. Are you fuzzy or are you clear or what? So that's, it looks blurry. So that's what it looks like on the inside. All right, that's the inside. Now, I believe it's bichambered. It's really hard to tell because these things are so small. I don't really examine them. But I believe they're bichambered, or it could be like a berry where they're just all over the inside of the tomato. This is basically a berry is what you're looking at, a tomato berry. So that's generally what they look like. And I'll taste test this right now. Let's see what it tastes like. Amazingly, the taste is the taste has got a very good taste to them. Amazingly, it's got a perfect amount of sweetness and a perfect amount of tang. The skins, on the other hand, are a little bit on the tough side, so you're going to have to just deal with that, basically. So you spit them out. I eat them like berries. I don't feel like chewing them. I basically pop them in my mouth, and then I just spit the whole skin out. It basically, once you put it in your mouth and you squeeze your tongue against the roof of your mouth with that in there, the whole inside comes out. It's basically the whole thing. It's almost like a grape. You ever eat like a fresh grape? When you go to eat it, that whole inside piece comes out and you're left with that skin behind. It's almost like eating a grape. But these are a wonderful tomato to eat. If you've never, like I've said to people in the past, if you've never grown these before, definitely give them a grow. They're well worth the trouble. The thing is, you got to keep in mind is if you're growing them in your garden, they're going to become a nuisance. If they're growing up around the outside of your yard and they're popping up all over the place, well, you don't care. It's not in your garden. When they're growing in your garden, that's a nuisance. That's as bad as any other weed. So just keep that in mind. I always warn people about that when I talk about this tomato. I always try to give a warning to it. But keep them out of your garden, you'll be fine. Let me eat this one. Yeah, you have to spit the skins out on this. Now, I'm going to put a little salt on this one. See if we can bring up that flavor a little bit more. And see if we can enrich in it. I'm going to be eating all those in a little while. You do, and another thing too with those. Let me eat this and see what it tell you what it tastes like. This is like my second favorite, like cherry or currant tomato. This is like my second favorite cherry or currant tomato. They taste that good. They truly do. They make a fantastic sauce. Number one, I've made sauce with these. It's fantastic. The other good thing about this tomato is that this is a very good famine food. So if you were in a situation and you were going to live off the land for a little while for whatever reason, and you needed to establish yourself and you needed to grow some vegetables and fruits that are relatively fast-growing foods and relatively hardy and produce a lot of, this is one of those foods you would want to apply to that. I would definitely say if you were going to like quote unquote bug out, this would be the tomato that you would want to use for that, because this tomato will produce fruits very early in the year. It's very aggressive. It produces tomatoes all the way late into the year, even when it'll die basically once it gets frosty. That's when it's over. If it could get down all the way down to like 34 degrees, as long as if it doesn't frost over, this plant will be fine. It'll keep growing. Once the frost comes, it's done. But this is a perfect famine food in a situation where your living situation isn't right or you're bugging out for some reason. This would be one of those things you'd want to plant in the woods in random areas. Different areas. You got to try a whole bunch of different areas and see where it grows best. And this will feed you pretty much the whole time while you're out there. And tomatoes are very good because they're very high in vitamin C. They also have a lot of other vitamins in it. So you really would want that in your diet. It would also make a good sauce while you're out in the wild. It's very easy to make sauce with this. You could just open up your canteen or your what's in your backpack, your cans. You could even take a regular can if you find it, you clean it out really good, and then put all of these in there, macerate it, put a little bit of salt in it, of course, for flavor, and if you can find any herbs that you might like stinging nettles, you can add that to the sauce and eat that just the way it is. That would be a terrific meal. And when this, like I'm telling you, you see right here, this little harvest is nothing. This is like maybe 100th of what I have growing out there. I would have a pile like this if I was to harvest everything that I had back there. That's how many tomatoes are there. And they're all over the floor as well. So keep that in mind. The other thing I want to point out too, I'm trying to find that broken one. No, it's not a big deal, but here. Another thing too is the seeds. You can see right here. See how the seeds are coming out of it? They're all over the place. I just squeeze it. If I squeeze this really hard, the seeds will be everywhere. So keep that in mind. The seeds want to come out of that thing just like any other berry. All right. These also make a really good tomato juice. Like you can just squeeze all of those into a glass. Just mix it up with a spoon. Take some salt, put it in there, and just drink it down. All the seeds and everything. Just squeeze out all the insides. Mix it up really good. Throw maybe a basil leaf in there. Definitely got to add salt to that and bring out that flavor. That's a great drink. That's a very refreshing drink. It's tomato flavor, but it's a very refreshing drink. It's got a lot of vitamins and nutrients in it. So that's another thing you can do with that. It's a great electrolyte fixer if you're in a situation where you don't have enough electrolytes. This would definitely give it to you. So, like I say, see how they peel like that? See how they peel over and then all of a sudden, see how the guts come right out? So, yeah, keep that in mind. I'll eat one of these whole for you. Not on camera, of course, but... And there is a way to get these off of here, too, by the way. I'll show you how. I'll show you in a second. Yeah, you absolutely got to spit those skins out. I mean, you could swallow the skins. It's just, they're annoying. So, if you want to pull a top off of one of these... If you want to pull the tops off of one of these, what I do, you have to do it this way. If you try to peel it off, like you would do with a tomato, you don't do that. It'll peel the skin. What I do is I just grab it and pull straight down. That's how you have to do it. You can't pull it to the side, because if you pull it to the side, this is what happens when you pull it to the side. Like if it's on a vine and you want to take that tomato off, per se, you see what it does? And you're pulling tomatoes off, they're going to pull to the side. You have to pop them straight off. I rate this as #1 in the cherry tomatoes. They got a great flavor. The versatility of this tomato is incredible. You can use it for a famine food. You can make sauce with it. You can put it in salads. You can make like a mozzarella salad and use the olive oil, a little bit of vinegar, and you just chop a bunch of these up. You slice them in half and you put them in your mozzarella salad. There's so many things you can do with this tomato. It's incredible. Yes, you can't slice them and put them on a burger. You can't slice them and put them on a sandwich. But if you're creative enough, you can almost do that. You just cut them in half and put them on there. The skins are a little bit tough, but this, like I say, really does make a great sauce. That's primarily what I would use it for. You can use it for making tomato juice. That's good for that. And I rate it #1 for not only taste and versatility, but also the aggressiveness of this plant. This plant is extremely aggressive. It'll adapt to almost any environment. And once it adapts to your environment, there's no stopping this plant. This plant will just keep producing tons and tons and tons of tomatoes. And even if the birds and the animals and the wildlife, if you planted it in the woods somewhere, and they come by and they're stripping off all the tomatoes, they can't get every seed. Sooner or later, 1 or 2 of these are going to fall, seeds are going to come out, and there will always be plants coming up. It's incredible how this plant can drop tomatoes and reproduce and keep itself going. It's an amazing plant. I definitely want to establish this plant in some of the areas that I go hunting in and some of the hiking areas I go. I definitely want to establish some of these tomatoes in small patches. So when I go up there, I'll always have tomatoes to eat. And I don't have to worry about packing in tomatoes. So that's a great tomato, guys. That's a #1 tomato for me. It's in the #1s for the cherry tomatoes. Definitely up on that level. Taste is great. There's so many things. It's just a great tomato. All right, so if you don't have the Everglade tomato and you want to give them a go, definitely give them a go. They're a recommended tomato by me. I love them, and your whole family will love them, and they're just a great tomato to have. All right, I don't know, but this tomato is native to the United States. All right, this is the only native tomato to the United States, as far as I know. All right, so that was your tomato review on the Everglade tomato. I hope you liked this video, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.